Okay, hello everybody. How are you feeling? All right? Is this going to be the best room for the whole day? I can't hear you. Marvellous. My name's Mike. Ooh, hello. My name's Mike Butcher. I'm a journalist. Hello, internet. With TechCrunch, and I'm your MC today. We will be seeing some panels, some discussions, some cool content, some amazing speakers, and 3 sets of pitches of, is it 4 or how many? 4, once for 4, 2 for 4, 3 sets of 4 pitches by the quarterfinalists in the startup competition for the Next Billion EdTech Prize. 3 of those startups will eventually win $25,000 each to continue their company and to educate the next billion people on the planet. Pretty cool, huh? Right. So, without further ado, we're now going to kick off with our first session of the day, how the Next Billion Prize took us on a new journey. Please come up, speakers. Charles, etc. Right. Please welcome Charles Wiles, co-founder of Zish, Mersal Haddad, founder and CEO of Chatterbox, Daniela Caralavino of BizNation, and moderated by Diane C. Morrison of The Path founder. Big round of applause. Way.
Hi there. So welcome to the panel. Hi, guys. So let's just start with some introductions. Mersal, why don't you start, and we'll go this way.
So my name is Mersal Hedayat. I am the co-founder of a company called Chatterbox and last year's Next Billion EdTech Prize winner. My company is the first language learning service in the world to offer professional matching. So we match engineers with engineer tutors in Arabic and doctors with aid worker teachers in French. And the only way we can provide this kind of engagement and relevance in learning is because all of our tutors are refugees who are from professional backgrounds and are unable to work in their prior fields. So we help them reconnect with their professional identities and give them a leg up to get back into skilled work.
Hello, everyone. It's very nice to be here. Thank you for inviting me. My name is Daniela Carvajalino. I come from the beautiful country of Colombia. And, woo! Colombia in the house. And I'm the CEO and co-founder of the BizNation. It's an e-learning platform in education, technology. It's an e-learning platform in technology, skills, entrepreneurship, and financial education. And we apply a disruptive methodology based in neuroscience to increase the levels of significant learning. We're also a social enterprise, so we get part of our profits to take education to Colombian refugees. And thank you for the invitation.
Charles?
Yes, hello, sorry, and I'm Charles Wiles. I'm the founder of Zish, one of last year's EdTech Billion Prize losers. So if you're a loser today, don't worry, you are a winner, and I'll explain a bit more why later. My company, Zish, does something which might sound quite boring, real-time data for teachers, schools, government as well. But actually it's really exciting. What we do is we help teachers really understand in the classroom, in real time, exactly which students need help, what they need help with, and how they can help them. We actually measure how effective resources and applications are in the classroom. And then we aggregate that data up to government. So we actually give government real-time data on how every single class across a whole country is progressing, which allows them not to monitor teachers, but to spot issues far, far earlier than they otherwise would and make really positive interventions to ensure that everybody succeeds in the school system.
Great. Okay, so the purpose of the panel was really just to catch up with these guys to see what's happened in the last year since you came to the conference and the competition. So why don't we just jump in, Mersal, being the winner, can you just tell us what happened after you won?
I immediately went to the toilet and threw up. I'm joking. No, I did actually, I had very little sleep, and the morning of the competition, it was kind of surreal, like a dream, standing in front of, felt like thousands of people and trying to not sound crap. And sounds like a few people didn't think my company was that bad and voted to have me win the grand prize. And since then, I think that the #1 takeaway from the whole Next Billion EdTech Prize and the Global Education and Skills Forum has just been the family of expert support that I've had access to. So a number of the judges this year and a number of the people involved in this competition, including Mike Butcher, Carla, and Matthew Greenfield, even Vikas Pota, have become advisors to my company and helped to make really relevant connections for me, have done so throughout the last year. In particular, we're about to open our seed round, which is extremely helpful to have a friend like Matt Greenfield, one of the most respected education investors on the planet, supporting our work. Another thing to come out of the competition has been, it has great exposure. I think I haven't had that kind of relevant visibility for a long time, and the inbound in terms of companies who've come to us wanting to work with us for us to deliver our language learning services to them has been so significant that we've actually pivoted away from our B2C business model to a B2B business model, just because, when you have as basic a organizational sign-up form as we have on our website, wearechatterbox.org, which is literally like a form and very little information, and you get companies like Virgin, you get companies like organizations like the Red Cross coming through this pathway, helped very much by the competition's press, then you need to look into it a bit more carefully. So we've actually even pivoted our business model because of the competition.
Okay, great. And Daniela?
Yeah, so I agree with a lot of the things that Mursa is saying. I think that the competition was an incredible place, first of all, for inspiration. Like, I never valued inspiration so much, but after I left the competition, I was like, oh my God, I have to do this and that and that and that, because people around the world are just doing so many amazing things. And I remember how when I was pitching my business, I said, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, I'm going to launch this new thing. And I'm happy, I'm proud to say that everything that I said I was going to do, we did. We're now incorporating artificial intelligence into our e-learning service and platform. We doubled in employees, we doubled in revenue, we made amazing contacts. I remember I had the opportunity to meet directly with the vice president of the Dominican Republic, and that's something that was possible due to the competition. That was part of the experience that we had. And maybe 1 month or 2 months after the competition, I was in the Dominican Republic meeting again with the vice president and her team and telling her about how could we do a pilot program in this country. So the opportunities here are unlimited. Like, there's so much that I gained from the competition. And like I said, I never valued inspiration so much. And only by listening in the opening plenary to this 10-year-old kid, I'm like, oh my God, like, I have to go a step further. And I think that's what keeps us entrepreneurs and change makers going.
Okay, and Charles, I know you just said you were the loser of the competition, but you walked away with contacts with the Philippines, and that turned into a contract. So can you tell us about that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, first of all, who in the audience is actually in the competition, or was in the competition? Okay, who's been kicked out of the competition? All right, congratulations, because actually the prize is not winning the competition. Like, we'd all like $25,000, but the prize is you have been invited to this absolutely incredible event. The networking opportunities you have over the next couple of days are phenomenal. We have some of the most influential and amazing education experts in the world here at this event. We have ministers, we have ex-presidents. Alex and I were talking to the ex-president of Ecuador yesterday. You have investors. One of our investors, Judy, is in the audience. You have teachers, 50 amazing teachers from around the world who you can network with. And actually one of them, we didn't actually meet here, but when we were doing our deal in the Philippines, I'd heard of him, Jim Toscano, so I reached out to him once we were doing our deal in the Philippines. He was part of the Varkey family. And he's now become a really good friend, and he's been super helpful with us in the Philippines as well. So you have this wonderful opportunity to network. Don't be shy. Even Mike Butcher is not as scary as he seems. Talk to everybody. Investors want you to talk to them. They want you to come up to them and pitch to them. That's their job. They want to meet amazing, great companies. So really do use this opportunity to network as much as you can.
Okay, and Charles, I just wanted to talk about the contract a little more. Like, how did that come about, and how long did it take for you?
Yeah, so we're really fortunate that we're working with the Philippines government. We're just rolling out now in the province of Bataan, which is 145,000 students, 243 schools, after a pilot we did last spring. It actually started before GSF. We actually hired a teacher in the Philippines to help us with sales into the US schools market. And this teacher decided to ignore what we were doing and take it to all her local schools. And before we knew it, we were talking to the local Department of Education, and then it was to the National Department of Education. And at about the same time, we were invited to this competition last year, and we got to meet Leonor Briones, the Minister of Education for the Philippines. And that allowed us to cement that relationship. The credibility that we got from being here and being selected by the Varkey Foundation really helped with that. The pilot went really, really well. We're now rolling out in Bataan. We now have a pilot going in the neighboring province of Bulacan, which is actually 600,000 students. And we feel incredibly privileged just to have the opportunity to have impact on that kind of scale. Now, obviously, we've been very fortunate with the Philippines, but this isn't about everybody should suddenly go and jump on the Philippines and go to Bataan and try and do a deal with the Philippines. What is important is that serendipity of conversations that happen. We could be focusing on Ecuador, or we could be focusing on Trinidad and Tobago. You do have those opportunities. You can be a small education technology startup and work with these with governments around the world, and you have those opportunities. They're there for you just to network and take those.
Okay. Well, I mean, let's talk about, obviously, you've come here, you've had this amazing year, but obviously there's still challenges in EdTech. So, Marcel, why don't you tell us, what's been your major challenge, and what do you think of the field of EdTech as you're plowing through it and continuing on your journey?
I think perhaps for us in particular, it's because we come often from the opposite side of education technology to many other companies in the space. Not only is our impact very much felt on the teacher side, our learners benefit from the best professional language training service on the market, but it's really our tutors who are often unemployed professionals who've become displaced, and this is often their first job and their first step back into work. And so this is where the significant bulk of our impact is produced, which is quite different to other education companies where it's often the student that's the center of the impact. And then in another way, because we are so, I come from a refugee background myself. I'm from Afghanistan. My mum was a civil engineer in the country, and once we became displaced, was unable to practice her profession, but wasn't even able to work in any skilled work at all. So really, this is a gift to my mother, this company. And so because we're so impact focused, we're very mission led. We are still a for-profit company, but we're very mission led. I do think we sometimes straddle the line between, for-profit investments and that kind of the capital that's needed to sustain us, and the opposite side, which is philanthropic capital. So I think sometimes we struggle to know what kind of people to talk to in terms of partnering our work for funding. So it's those two things, I think. The fact that our impact comes more from the teacher side than the student side, and another that we are a purpose-led, for-profit business, and sometimes that doesn't fit in too well in this kind of model of how businesses should be.
Right, okay. And so picking up on the funding, Charles, how was your funding round? Because I think you just raised, but you've also done other things like crowdfunding.
Hello. Yes. Yes, we've actually done 3 crowdfunding rounds in the UK. We did one on Syndicate Room and one on Crowdcube. And I must say, for us, they have been fantastic because, venture capital funds, particularly in Europe, are not particularly keen on the EdTech sector. They see the struggles and how hard it is to scale. But private individual angel investors take a bit more of a long-term view. They also want to do something a bit more impactful for their money. And those platforms really allow you to harness that kind of investment, angel investment, particularly in the UK, that you would otherwise be a massive gap. So I do really recommend using the crowdfunding sites, particularly in the UK, to do that. If you do go down that route, though, it's not like you just do it and it works. You know, you have to take it really, really seriously and invest 6 months of your life in doing a crowdfunding campaign. You know, you prepare for 3 months, you then run it for a month and a half, 2 months, and then you close. You know, you will be working on that campaign, you know, 60, 70% of your time for those 6 months. It's not just a magic wand that you can wave.
But it's definitely worth it, you
But it's
think,
definitely
yeah?
worth it, yes.
Yeah. Okay. And Daniela, I know you're profitable, right? Yes?
Yes.
Okay, but and the interesting thing about your company is that you are actually taking 15% of the profits and donating it. So how does that work for you, and what was the challenge in doing that?
Yeah, so I think the social enterprise model has been one of the best things that had happened to us, because when we started when we were really young, 6, 7, and 8 years old, selling chocolates door to door in Barranquilla, Colombia, and we always had this amazing drive to create an impact in the world. And we said, you know, education is not the way it should be. We want to reshape it. We want to do something. But at the same time, when you graduate college, you're like, okay, I have to get a job or like do some money somehow. So social entrepreneurship was the perfect way for us to be able to do what we love, to create a huge impact in the world in education. And at the same time, we are a for-profit company, so we still make money. This is what I do full-time, so it's not like a side thing, like this is my job. 20 other people who work in my company live from this. So I think it's an amazing model to work with. One of the big challenges that we faced is that fine line between a nonprofit and a social enterprise model, because a lot of people often think, okay, so if you're creating an impact, then you must be a nonprofit. And in a country like my country, there's no specific policies or laws for social enterprises. So we are legally registered as a normal for-profit company. So that can create some taxes and like some sort of legal issues, not really problems, but issues, because you are not a non-for-profit and you're not a for-profit, but you know, you're still a for-profit company. But aside from that challenge, I think that social enterprise model is the best way that one entrepreneur can use to do something that we truly love and at the same time to create an impact.
Where are you actually donating the profits to?
So we work with a non-for-profit organization that is called Fundación Emprender, or Entrepreneurship Non-for-Profit,
Yeah.
and they take our resources and take education to these very, very far places in Colombia where people have been displaced because of the internal armed conflict. So they had to leave their cities or their towns and go start a new life. They have no education whatsoever, so they don't know anything to do. So we don't teach them like elementary school, primary school. We teach them skills that they can actually use so that they can be productive, so that they can create their own business, or so they can get a job in technology or any other industry. So that's how we worked with it.
Okay, and let's talk about the challenge of scaling, because I mean, all three of you are very different in your own ways. Charles, you're probably the closest to what I guess a traditional VC might look at in terms of scaling very quickly across the world. So can you talk about the challenges you've had? And I mean, we had a conversation earlier this morning about, the challenges of getting into UK schools, for example, and yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think,
So now.
being the founder of any technology organization is challenging, but it's particularly hard in EdTech. I mean, one of my favorite
So then
quotes
can we
is
catch
Elon
up?
Musk's. Being the founder of a company of any size is like staring into the abyss of death and eating glass, because the abyss of death is that at any time your company is facing complete annihilation. And the eating glass is that as a founder, the stuff that's going well, you delegate. It's only the stuff that's going seriously wrong you work on yourself. So it's a challenging business. EdTech is a very slow-moving space. In the UK market, we sell to schools. If I go into a VC and say that I sell to schools, they politely show me the door. It's a tough market selling to schools, particularly in the UK, because in the UK you have to sell to every school individually. The cost of acquisition of a school for a mature company that's really cracked selling to schools is probably around £2,000, and you'll sell your product maybe for £500,000 a year. So if you're a small startup, it's really hard to scale. So we realized that very early on, and we said, okay, we'd love to do the UK. We really care about the UK, but we just can't. We can't make money
Yeah,
in
so,
the short term.
so
in the
you had to
UK.
go global very quickly.
So we had to go global.
Yeah.
We said, where can we go globally? In Philippines and the USA. And the great thing is in the USA, apart from it being a big market, because they have the district buying system, you can actually turn a profit if you get it right. So, you know, the cost of acquisition for us of a US district is around £3,500, a little more than a school in the UK. But the initial deal value is more like £15,000, and actually the lifetime value we think is probably more like £200,000. So, you know, you're spending £3,500 to get £200,000 of lifetime value, and that means that you can run a profitable business. And you know, I think everybody in this room is not in it fundamentally for the money. That we're in it because we really want to have a real impact on education. But to create impact at scale, you need money. Right? You know, for us, we really care about having impact at scale. So being able to attract that kind of funding and have a successful, profitable business is really important for us.
And Marcel, how about you? Because the Chatterbox, I would assume, would need a global audience to really get going.
Well, I think, so the question was on scale, and I think one of the things that we constantly have to fight against is the idea that a language learning business built on the skills and talents of refugees is necessarily unscalable. Whereas actually the global population of refugees worldwide is in the several hundreds of millions right now, like 600 million, topping historical levels of displacement. And it's about to reach about 1 billion people by 2050, according to the Lancet. So this is a huge global population and about to get even bigger with refugees from places like the United States, even China, Egypt, because of the impacts of climate change. Not just that, but Chatterbox is a model that helps all sorts of displaced talent. So in the future, we aim to not only work with refugees, which represents a physical dislocation of human capital and therefore its devaluation, but also work with other groups of displaced talent, like mothers who are displaced from the workforce, people who lose their jobs due to automation. In all of these situations, you have extremely competent professionals who are out of work or in very low-skilled work, and in any of these situations, there's a chance for us to have a talent arbitrage opportunity in investor speak, but an opportunity for us to have impact is why we pursue it. So we definitely see ourselves as being a model on par with any other education business, but I think it sometimes does take a bit of education about these issues for investors to see that as well.
Yeah, and Daniela?
And just to add a little bit to what you've been saying, I think that the key in our company, the Biz Nation, was to have a clear and simple business model. So when we started, I remember, and for everyone in the competition, if you're pitching and it's hard for you to explain your business model, then you need to change something about it, because the key in our business to be able to scale was to have a business model that was very clear and that was very simple. Like, we sell this, we make money through this. Is it B2B? Is it B2C? Maybe it's both. Maybe it's a mix, but it has to be very clear, because at the beginning, we thought, we have a lot of things that we can do. So we had like 10,000 different lines, and it was very complicated. And we thought that, we're having a lot of things. We have a lot of products, a lot of services, so this is good. But then we realized that if we wanted to scale and that we wanted to go outside of Colombia, outside of Latin America, then we had to have 2 or 3 products or 2 or 3 services and an exact way in which it worked. And I think that's what has allowed us to go to other countries, even with like big contracts, big partners, like the example I gave with the Dominican Republic or any other big partner that we had to create something that could be replicable and not like at the beginning we tried to do something very personalized and customized to every client, and that was limiting our ability to scale. But when we created one product that was available for everyone, then it became easier.
Okay, that's great segue into my final question. Charles, any pieces of advice for the startups today?
Absolutely. I mean, I've already said it. Network like crazy. Don't be shy. When I actually was young, I used to think that networking was a schmoozy kind of thing, and I didn't like doing it. But, arguably your personal network is the single biggest factor that will impact the success of your business. So talk to everybody. I mean, obviously I get lots of advice from all sorts of people at all the time, but other founders, and there are 30 at least here, probably most in the room. I never walk away from a conversation with another founder without learning something valuable. So network, talk, ask for help and advice. I think one of the great things about the EdTech community is it's a really, really collaborative and supportive community. It's a tough industry, but I'm always delighted to help and do whatever I can for other people. So if you need any help from me, if you want any of my advice, do come and talk to me.
Okay, Marcel, any advice?
You have 20 minutes.
I would echo that. I think my theory of value is that things are valuable because humans are involved rather than things being valuable in and of themselves. So the most powerful asset that you can acquire are mentors and advisors and friends on your entrepreneurship journey. And there's plenty of awesome people to choose from in the audience here.
And Daniela, any last?
My advice would actually be a song from Pitbull, and it says, ask for money and get advice. Ask for advice, get money twice. Literally, this is a song, but it's a really good advice from Mr. Pitbull, Mr. 305, because I think that when you're trying to get money all the time, like you're a startup and you're trying to get investment, and you're looking at people and like, how is this gonna be a business? How am I gonna get money? Then I don't know, for some reason, like things don't flow. But when you're genuinely try to like talk to people, get information from them, be friends, that's the way we've gotten like the best businesses, contracts, and everything. So listen to a song.
Charles?
Yeah, just one last 30-second thing. I mean, obviously, big thank you to the Vaki Foundation, but a massive thank you to Carla. I don't think, all of us owe quite a lot to Carla and her support in many ways, but Carla has been working absolutely tirelessly on this event for the last 6 months, so thank you so much, and we appreciate it.
Okay, and great. We have a few more minutes just for some questions, if anyone. Quick questions.
3 minutes.
Okay, sir.
Questions, anyone?
This is just a real simple one. When you're preparing for your pitch, now last year I had the pleasure of watching y'all last year do it. It was amazing. Did you memorize that, or was that like out of your heart as you were going? Like when you do a pitch, sometimes you're like, I got 2 minutes, and you can sometimes when you know something really well, you can take it and you can go, all right, I know where I'm at 1 minute, and then pull it together in 2. Did you have it memorized? I don't know how it worked in the beginning.
I'm super curious. Are you one of the pitching companies or?
Oh, no. I've just pitched so many times at other things, and I'm like, the ones I memorized sucked.
Oh, really?
The ones that weren't memorized were home runs.
Yeah. My process is very particular, mostly because I'm really, if I ad lib, I'll just go on forever. And often you have like 3 minute, 5 minute, in these kind of competitions, you have really small amounts of time to get across a lot of information. So I find pre-scripting what I'm going to say. And actually, so I pre-script it, I finalize the script, then I record it on with a voice recorder, and I listen to it for like 2 days, like in the shower, before bed, as I'm making tea, during my lunch break. Like, it takes me 2 days to memorize a script. And then I think, for me, like, it's really easy to sound scripted like that, right? But for me, I have this, like, and every entrepreneur, I think, has it, but I have this fire in my belly for what I do that is based from the person that I love most in the world, my mother. And when I'm on stage, I just think about her. And I still, this day, when I talk about it, it makes me very emotional to tell her story to people and to talk about the business I built that was inspired by her. So I think that's when it stops sounding scripted. So I guess my approach would be definitely script it, memorize it, but then bring up that fire in your belly for what you're talking about when you're actually delivering it.
Yeah, I always script it and memorize it, but I have also never won a pitch competition, so I don't know what that says. Mind you, we're still succeeding, so it's not all about winning pitch competitions.
All right, great. So I think we've run out of time. Thank you, guys.
Diane?
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Don't forget your phone.